Hi all, thank you for joining us. Okay, I want to make sure I give everyone a few seconds to get into the room. Can you hear me? Okay. I think that's the majority of people that were waiting. So we will go ahead and get started here. So my name is Betty, and I'm speaking here on behalf of our Orientation and Transition Programs Office. Welcome to our Wednesday webinar series. These webinars are designed to help you prepare for your arrival at UVA. So we want you to hear a little bit more about the resources and programs available before you get here to grounds and start your time here at UVA. I have a few reminders for you before we get started with our content, but please be sure you're checking the deadlines in your new student portal or that task list. You've got a lot of things to complete as time goes on throughout the summer. Make sure you're staying up on these tasks so you're ready to hit fall classes running. You can access the new student portal from our website, orientation.virginia.edu, if you haven't done so already. Um, be sure you're also checking your UVA email regularly. This is the primary means of communication between us, anyone at the university, and you. So make sure you as students are taking responsibility, keeping an eye on that inbox. It's really important that you start taking ownership of your college experience right now. Our office is absolutely helpful for anything that you have questions on. You can email the orientation office at orientation@virginia.edu. If you're not sure where else to go, we will make sure you get connected to the right folks. So don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, a couple other things. If you miss any information, there will be a recording of the webinar that will get posted on our website, which is again our Wednesday webinars page of our orientation website in about the next week or so. And it will stay there for the rest of the summer if you have questions or need to follow up on anything. If you have any questions at the end of this webinar that's not answered by our presenters, feel free to contact them directly. Again, if you don't know where to go, reach out to the orientation office. We'll make sure you can get in touch with them. So those are all the reminders I have. And before I pass on the torch, I'm happy to introduce that this evening's presentation is from our Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. So we've got Ann Carter-Mulligan on the line and Taylor Worley, who's going to share more about information you need to know before getting into that school and how they can support you through this experience. Feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, our little box there. You'll be able to type questions in directly and our presenters will answer them either throughout or at the end. So glad to have you here again. Take it away, Anne.
Thank you, Betty. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with your office and talk to excited new students. Congratulations to you all. My name is Ann Carter-Mulligan. I'm Senior Director of Admission at UVA's Batten School. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like, feel free to enter your information at the QR code that you see here so we can keep in touch. Don't worry if you're not committed to doing so now. There's lots of ways to engage with us as your time at UVA progresses, so we can talk about that later. Tonight, what I'd like to do is introduce you to our school, prepare you for course enrollment, which is one of the major things you will do over the next coming weeks before arriving on grounds. We would love to see you when you are on grounds, when you're here for summer orientation. We host information sessions at each session. All of those programs take place in Garrett Hall, which you can see on this slide. So information about all of that is also on the orientation webpage. So over the next hour or so, I'll share a few slides. We'll hear more from one of our fabulous Batten alumni, who I'm so thrilled has joined us tonight, who can answer your questions, Taylor Worley. So please, as Betty said, feel free to add those as you go, hold them to the end. We'll save plenty of time to answer those questions. So again, congratulations. I know this admission cycle was incredibly competitive. I think my colleagues in UVA's undergraduate admissions office barely slept. They read so many applications this year. So you've passed a very high bar. We're so excited to welcome you to grounds starting this summer. So there are quite a few ways to study public policy at UVA, perhaps more than you might even initially think. We like to say at Batten that policy is truly everywhere. So you can study history, you can study economics, computer science, data science, foreign language, English. You can be pre-health, you can be pre-med, pre-law. Virtually anything you study can prepare you for an eventual career that grapples with public policy in some way. So as you think about what you might like to study here at UVA, I want to bring your attention to a couple specialized policy majors. Most of these are actually in the College of Arts and Sciences, in addition to our undergraduate major. So we're the last bolded link on this slide here. You can study policy at the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. But you can also study it in lots of other ways, which you should absolutely chat with your advisor about once you arrive on grounds. These are majors you can explore further. You can try out coursework in any of these areas. Ultimately, you can double major, minor, double minors, virtually any combination of study will work and you will be learning and training and preparing for a policy career. The combinations are really endless. The college majors focus their lens on policy in a more academic or theoretical way. Ours does so in a way that we think is unique to us, and that's with a real focus on leadership. So the great news is you've got lots of time to explore all of your different options. Batten is an upper school at UVA, meaning students typically join one of our programs in their third or fourth year. And this is the general model at UVA you've probably heard in other sessions or in your own exploration. You explore multiple disciplines across your first 2 years while completing your general education requirements. And then for most majors, you declare or apply into them in your second year. So our degree programs are all application-based. They are competitive, and they focus on leadership, policy, and equipping you with skills to create impactful, lasting change. We really want to help educate and train the next generation of policy and citizen leaders to act on behalf of the common good. And as I mentioned, we really think the best way to do that is with a special focus on leadership. So at Batten, you'll receive best-in-class knowledge about the levers of policy formation. You will engage in theory. You'll build some skills in data analysis. But on that leadership side of things, we're really going to help you build a very tactical, very practical toolkit where you are learning how to work in groups, analyze group behavior, negotiate and navigate conflict. You will learn how to communicate effectively. You're a good critical thinker. Our approach to leadership is based on a really nuanced understanding of how human experiences and perspectives and motivation all shape human behavior and human action. And that all comes from our foundation in social psychology or behavioral science. So we really think you can't learn about policy in a vacuum. We want you to move beyond learning about policy and take that next step to effectively implement solutions. As you might imagine, with that practical focus, our degree paths lead to a really wide variety of professional outcomes, which I'll talk about in just a minute. I think a couple other things are really special about Batten. We are definitely one of UVA's smaller programs, so we are able to put our emphasis on helping you develop really strong connections to your cohort, so your peers, a community of support that includes faculty and staff. We are all very, very accessible. You get a great deal of individualized support from your peers and from us. We have a dedicated career services office. Our faculty to student ratio is 1 faculty member to every 10 students. So you really get to know them both inside and outside the classroom. We are interdisciplinary. So UVA has a ton of interdisciplinary majors and a number of policy majors, as I noted. So ours looks at the ways that social psychology, economics, history, politics, ethics, law, other related fields all intersect and shape policy in very complex ways. Just as important from our perspective, from an interdisciplinary perspective, our faculty have really diverse backgrounds as both scholars, but also practitioners. So they have gone out and done work in the policy field, both domestically and internationally. They have done real policy work at the UN, as professional staff in Congress, at the Department of Homeland Security, in the State Department, at UNICEF for the World Food Program. All those experts bring that incredible policy experience and their professional networks with them into the classroom. So the classroom setting is very interactive. It's very hands-on, very collaborative. The focus is really on experiential applied learning, a real world emphasis. So you're developing real tools for use. We're a pre-professional school, so our goal is really to help equip you for the real world. I think it can sometimes be helpful to kind of work backwards from where our grads end up to really start to wrap your head around what Batten can help prepare you for. So these are a couple examples of the types of careers that our Batten graduates go on to launch their kind of public work after they graduate. We have great employment outcomes across a really wide variety of sectors because of that dedicated support that you get from a career advancement team that I noted. We have really wonderful professional outcomes. So for the most recent graduating class for which we have data, which is 2025 graduates, not those grads who graduated a couple weeks ago, we had a 98% placement rate, either in a career or in continued learning within 6 months of graduation. So we're really proud of the work that we do to prepare our students for their professional lives. It might surprise you that our Batten grads don't only go on to work on Capitol Hill. They don't just work for the federal government, though many of them certainly do. I would say roughly 50% of the graduates of our graduate program, our Master of Public Policy, do end up in government roles directly, local, state, federal sectors. But our BA employment outcomes are much more diverse, with more grads working across sectors or going on to grad school. A lot of our grads go into consulting for both the private sector and the government, but some of them just enter business or go work for nonprofits, go work for research institutions or think tanks. Many join the service organizations. And I noted many go on to grad school, particularly law school. So I would say in any given year, about 10% of our undergrads go right into law school directly from their undergrad experience. But that number certainly grows as students take another path and build some years of professional experience and then pivot to law. If you think about the skill set that we're helping you build, it's very, very transferable. In policy or law or business or anything else, really, you're developing strong analytical tools, critical thinking skills, professional writing, you're good at managing projects, you are proficient and persuasive public speaker. Wide variety of outcomes that really reflects the curriculum that you pursue that's responsive to your interests, and then the professional skills we help you build for what comes next. So what are some of those programs that you can pursue? We have 2 degree paths where you actually leave with a diploma from the Batten School. Both, I noted, require application and admit students through a competitive process. Our graduate path is the Master of Public Policy. So that's for students who know they want to go on to work within the professional policy realm in some way. They want to, in their next immediate steps, engage with policy at a deeper level. So the way that it works is you receive your undergraduate degree in something that's outside of Batten. So you'd major likely in something in the College of Arts and Sciences. You apply to the program, and then you start taking a mix of Batten courses in your final undergraduate year. So you're finishing your undergrad requirements while starting grad school. You graduate with your undergrad degree, you celebrate with your friends, you walk the lawn, and then you do a summer internship. And then your final year is all graduate coursework at Batten. That's the only year that you're a full-time Batten student. So there are some cost savings there because you're only paying for 1 year of graduate tuition and savings in time to degree. So you're able to hit the ground running more quickly for your next professional steps. You have to earn 90 credits prior to beginning the program. So most students apply in their 3rd year to start the program in their 4th, but a lot of you are coming in with so many AP credits, dual enrollment credits, that you're actually able to expedite your timeline. So hard as it may seem when you're on this side of your college experience, probably still enjoying time with your high school friends, that you could actually leave UVA with a graduate degree in 4 years, a total of 4 years. If you're eligible for that path, you do have to kind of start making your academic milestones pretty quickly once you get here. So come talk to us. We'd love to talk with you about it. It is a heavily quantitative program. So we want to make sure you can use data to advance a position. So you'll take some courses in behavioral economics, in social psychology, some research methods, some analytical coursework, and then you'll focus a lot of time on the policy areas that you want to study. I noted it's professional degree, it's very rigorous. It's really a deep dive into policy and data analysis. On the other side, we have one undergraduate major. So if the grad program is, sorry, I got a reboot now emergency alert that I'm hoping will not happen while I'm on screen. Um, if so, Taylor, you can handle this, right? So the undergraduate major, if the accelerated MPP is the deep dive, the undergraduate major is more a generalist look at issues in the policy realm, more interdisciplinary, more from the perspective of effective engagement with the world. So it also includes some coursework in policy and leadership, some economics coursework, multidisciplinary context of policy, and then special topics or your policy electives, where you can study the particular policy areas that are interesting to you, whether that's education or health, national defense and security, uh, effective legislation, international development. We offer electives that cross a whole lot of different policy areas. The program ends with a capstone where you apply your learning to some kind of real world policy situation. And you end up being a really good consumer of information. So you'll have public policy knowledge. We'll give you the tools for robust participation in public life, whatever you go on to do next. If you end up majoring in something else at UVA, we also have two minors. So the public policy and leadership minor or the social entrepreneurship minor. These minors also require application, but the app is simply a quick check of your academic transcripts to make sure you've taken the prerequisites and you're prepared for the curriculum. So all eligible students are admitted into these pathways. The public policy and leadership minor, it's a really good way to supplement your primary major in another school with some policy and leadership. It's a broader look at issues in the policy realm, really with the goal of making you fluent in the language of policy and the ways that it intersects with your chosen field of study, whatever that may be. The social entrepreneurship minor is probably our most flexible offering. So it's only 15 credits. It's a pan-university program that allows you to take electives across many different schools at UVA. So it's very cool in that way. You can take coursework at the Commerce School, in the college, in the School of Engineering. It's part of the larger entrepreneurship minor track that the Commerce School actually administers, but our social entrepreneurship lane is for students who are interested in impact investing or entrepreneurial approaches to fixing public problems, equity-based leadership. It's a nice blend of public and private solutions to improve human lives. So in classes, you use some design thinking to create innovative solutions, lots of elective choices, lots of alternative semester choices. So you can take January term coursework, which happens over winter break. There's some study abroad credit you can gain. There's summer coursework. Both of these minors are really great to align with a primary major in another school. So I struggled honestly to think of a discipline that wouldn't be enhanced by a little extra focus on policy and some leadership skill building. So looking towards the fall, here's a little bit about classes you might be considering. Each program has prerequisites, so those are classes that you have to complete before moving forward. These prerequisites are truly the only classes that you have to take prior to enrolling at Batten. And the good news is most of them are also prerequisites for lots of other majors at UVA. So they are kind of useful credits that count towards lots of different buckets, no matter where you ultimately end up. So here are the requirements. Across our programs, you have to take microeconomics. For our undergraduate major and our public policy and leadership minor, you have to take social psychology. You'll see the college course Psych 2600 listed here, but also our Batten course, LPPL 2600. That's our specific version of social psych called Foundations of Behavioral Science that really looks at social psychology through a policy lens. You also need to take Introduction to Public Policy as a prereq for the undergraduate major, and it's a core course that is part of the minor. So that's a class that many people take to help them decide whether Batten is a good fit and which track might be right for them. So for the prerequisites, you have to earn a C or higher in all of the courses in order to move forward. And then the social entrepreneurship minor, the class that you have to take to kick off that application process is ENTP 1010, which is a class on startups, creating a venture, kind of doing lots of simulations to see how it feels to actually run a public or a private venture. On the graduate side, of course, microeconomics again, and a calculus-based math are the prerequisites. This should be a signal to you. That's our more quantitative track. For any of these courses, it is possible to use AP credit. And as long as you receive direct equivalent credit, so not the 1000 T transfer credit, and this will all make sense when you can see your transcripts in a couple weeks' time. For the MPP in particular, we really like to see you take a math course at UVA to demonstrate some proficiency and some readiness for graduate level quantitative work. So I've noted some stats courses here you might consider. I will say this is a lot of information, probably way too much to internalize tonight. All of this is on our website, so feel free to kind of dig in and explore further there. Outside of the prerequisites, my general advice for your first couple of semesters at UVA is really to focus on completing your general education requirements and really to explore. You never know what's going to click for you until you give it a try. So I absolutely encourage you to take a wide range of courses, and the general education requirements are designed to help you do just that. So Batten's general education curriculum is the same as the College of Arts and Sciences. So as you continue to make progress towards those, once Batten becomes your school of enrollment, you'll complete that general education curriculum that you started. In particular, sometimes we find once your school of enrollment changes to Batten, upper level foreign language courses can be harder to access. So those in particular are some you should maybe think about completing across your first couple semesters at UVA. It's also helpful to see your prerequisites completed prior to the semester that you would apply to one of our programs so that we can see those grades on your transcript. It's a helpful data point for us. Certainly not a deal breaker. We admit students all the time, conditional upon eventually completing those prerequisites, but that leaves a little bit of a gap in your application materials that you, I'm sure, will easily balance with something else that's awesome about you and exciting about you that makes you ready for a degree in public policy. But that's one thing to keep in mind. Knock out those courses quickly if you can. Uh, Finally, fill in some quantitative gaps. So if you're using high school AP dual enrollment test credit to fulfill quantitative requirements, take something at the collegiate level. And then finally, consider taking one of our elective courses. And I'll go through a couple options for you on the next slide. I should say you should not take more Batten courses to be more competitive for when it's time to apply to the major. It's really more for you to explore topics that are interesting to you, to see whether our coursework is something you enjoy and could be a good fit. Another reason you might consider knocking out some electives early, you might find you have more complex academic goals when you get here. So if you know you want to study abroad and double major or double minor, it can be helpful to take some coursework in advance to clear some space later on in your time at UVA to make room for those other plans. Talk to your advisor, come talk to us. We can help guide your choices in that way. Okay, so here are the Batten courses being offered this fall you might be able to enroll in. A couple notes on these classes. The first two for a taste of Batten, they're very cool courses for exploration. They wouldn't necessarily count towards major requirements once you got to Batten because The coursework that we can apply towards curricular requirements all has to be taken at the 3000 level or above. But these classes are very cool, great intro to some things that are kind of core to what we do. The first two courses are really great examples of our leadership, our approach to leadership. So Resilient Student is taught by a really wonderful professor who is Tim Davis, who's an expert on resilience and group dynamics and leadership development. It's a great way to build some leadership and critical skills. It helps you build skills for the transition into college. It helps you navigate your new networks. I think I could benefit from taking the course and building some skills in that realm. Lots of reflection on what your strengths are and how best to leverage those. The second course, Outdoor Leadership, is a very cool course focusing on leading teams in outdoor spaces. So you're building strong team foundations, you're building good risk management and outdoor technical skills. You spend a lot of time in the field and you really take some time to reflect on how what you've learned there can be applied to a variety of contexts. So it's really giving you very tangible leadership practice. The other foundations coursework are all in the kind of prerequisite realm. So LPPL 2600, I mentioned, fulfills the social psychology prerequisites. It really examines how social influence and perception and interaction, basically interpersonal relationships, affect individual and group behavior. So you can steer groups towards effective outcomes. And then Introduction to Public Policy, prereq for the major, part of the minor curriculum. You learn about policy formation. Enrollment in this course is usually restricted until at least the spring semester of your first year. You're probably not going to be able to enroll in the fall. We like for you to get a little more UVA coursework under your belt, particularly some writing practice before taking the class, because you focus a lot of the course on developing the skill of public policy memo writing, which is very different than writing a long expository essay. And then I mentioned that ENTP 1010 class on startups for the social entrepreneurship minor. You practice through learning and simulations, starting new ventures, funding ventures, managing a startup, faces the issues facing founders of projects, how to navigate funding, both for profit and not-for-profit social ventures. Phew, okay, that was a lot of information. You'll have opportunities to hear it again. We have Batten information sessions during summer orientation. We extend those throughout the academic year. In addition to our events, we host open office hours with Batten ambassadors. You can book an appointment with an admissions staff member. This QR code here is the same as the first slide. It's the best way to plug in to our resources during the academic year. Use the QR code. We'll add you to our weekly newsletter with lots of tips and features on cool things our students are doing, cool things our alums are doing, communicates helpful deadlines to you. It's a very helpful resource. Please do feel free to reach out to us anytime. We are trying to be as helpful and engaging to you as possible. Basically, if you want to be a Batten, you want to build some skills to create change in the world, we want to do everything we can to help you get there. So please do contact us this summer and points beyond. And with that, we have a little bit of time, I think, for some Q&A with my awesome new colleague, Taylor. Uh, so Taylor, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself, your name, your hometown, what you studied, what you're doing now.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor Worley. I graduated from UVA in spring of 2025 with my bachelor's in public policy and leadership and African American studies. So I've been right where you guys are. I've been absorbing all of this information with and before. So super excited to be here with you guys. And then in 2026, this past year, I just finished getting my master's in higher education. So I am now actually an admissions coordinator at Batten and super excited to be back here sharing with you all.
So please do feel free to drop any questions you might have. I've got a couple in the wings to get us started. What made you choose UVA, Taylor, and what led you to the Batten School?
Yeah. Um, I chose UVA because I am a Richmond, Virginia native, Midlothian, if you're Midlothian more specifically. Um, but I knew that UVA was a super close school close enough to home where I could get a little bit of exposure, but also just kind of dip my feet in the water and learn something new. away from my family and friends. So that was my first draw. But what drew my attention to the Batten School was, as Anne touched on, the focus on leadership is super unique to public policy and government studies in general. Being able to learn about public policy through that lens was super unique and important to what I wanted to do in my academic career. So,
Can you tell us a little bit about how you were able to explore your policy interests at our school through
yes.
coursework or applied experiential opportunities?
Yeah. Um, Coursework throughout Batten. So I took several courses. I came into UVA with the knowledge that I definitely was interested in education policy specifically. So didn't know in what capacity, whether that would be K-12, higher ed. Obviously not working in higher ed. I am very passionate about higher education policy as well, but I was able to kind of explore that through several Batten courses. First course I took in Batten was trauma in U.S. public school systems. That was such a phenomenal course that kind of just taught me about the intricacies of public policy and how it impacts the education system, and just a super memorable course to begin with. And then I would say the other experiential kind of aspect that I took part in during my undergrad experience was serving as an education policy associate in both the education school with a professor that works in both Batten and Ed school. So being able to do that was super transformative because it was able to apply my experiences in both education and public policy in one setting. So learned a lot and super grateful for that.
Do you have a favorite class or a favorite professor that you were able to work with?
Ooh. Okay, I'll give two answers for this. So I've told Anne about this before. My favorite class at Batten that I took was US and International Prison Systems, which I actually went to Norway over spring break during my fourth year. And during this Batten course, we quite literally went to a prison in Norway and learned about what their prison system looks like and how public policy structures in Norway influenced how their prison system works and what can we learn from their systems and how can they be implemented in the United States. So obviously a once in a lifetime course that who gets to say they went to jail in Norway for an academic experience, but super cool, super engaging, and super grateful to have taken that class with Professor Gerard Robinson. So, super memorable professor. Um, my second class, which I would say it always left me thinking super critically about everything in the world. That would be political context with Professor Johannesson. That was, I want to say, fall of my fourth year, but that class in general, Professor Johannesson just does a great job of making a lot of really broad and sometimes overarching topics. He makes them digestible, understandable, and then helps you kind of process ways to apply them to your specific interest, whatever that may be. So, super appreciative of those learning experiences as well.
So we know a lot of learning in college happens outside the classroom. It's not all solely about the academic experience.
Hmm.
And the options you have at UVA are somewhat overwhelming. I think there's
Yes.
something like 900 student organizations students can join. So what are some of the things you were involved with outside the classroom? And how might you guide someone who might be looking at that long list saying, how do I even begin to understand what I
Yeah.
should do with my time?
Yeah, it's a lot. But it's a great thing. It's a great problem to have, having so many options to choose from. During my undergrad experience, I was a rotunda student ambassador, so that was one of my first jobs at UVA and probably took up a good amount of my time. As I said, I was also an education policy associate, so I was doing education policy research. I was in a sorority I'm still in a sorority. Um, and then I was also a fellow at the Meriwether Lewis Institute of Citizen Leadership. So obviously being involved in all of those things means that there's a time management aspect. There's a lot of things that I took into account that were super manageable with my Batten curriculum and just with being able to navigate all of the extracurriculars and things of that nature. So I enjoyed it. And it was great. Just kind of processing all of that information. I would say when you're thinking through what course or what extracurriculars are best for you. I would say just ask those around you, ask those involved in the programs and the organizations, see what they've learned. And oftentimes, UVA students are your best resources. So I would say learn from them, learn what you can while they're there. And as just a culture, they're always willing to help as well. So take advantage of that. That would be my advice.
I think it's great advice. And as a first step, I'll give a plug for Betty's program. We have some really amazing orientation leaders who are members of our student community, who can start to provide some of that wayfinding. So you'll
Yeah.
get to know them a lot this summer, everyone. All right, so give us, as we can probably wrap things up pretty soon, give us your kind of 5-year, 10-year postgraduate plan, since
Ooh,
immediately you're spending some time with us, which we're so grateful for.
yes.
But how has Batten, and UVA more generally, since you're a W, how has that helped or will help you meet those kind of longer term career goals?
Yeah. Um, I definitely want to say in the higher education sphere, I think that being in Batten was really informative in that it showed me how I can apply the writing skills, the critical thinking skills, the analytical skills to practically any field. But as I've expressed to you guys, higher education and education policy in general is where I definitely want to stay. So long term, I would say my goal is to one day be able to help craft policies for higher education while also working in an administrative capacity in some way. So I think my time at Batten was informative because, as I said, being able to think critically, generate solutions to real world problems while also having that leadership background through Batten on the side is also just been a phenomenal resource for me as well. So,
That's great. Okay, final question to bring it home.
okay.
This is my favorite one. What advice? Think about yourself on the receiving end of this webinar, little Taylor from a few years ago. What advice would you give to yourself in the past,
Yeah.
as you were preparing to make this big leap to join UVA, thinking about what you wanted to study or explore or get involved in?
Yeah. Um, Number one, I'll make this probably a couple parts. Don't be afraid. Um, there's about 4,000 other classmates who are just as nervous, if not more nervous than you. Um, and take advantage of the resources. UVA is such a special place with so many different people, experiences, and so whatever you can, absorb it all, learn from those around you, and as cheesy as it sounds, you really will find your place, you'll find your people and find your interests because there truly is something for everyone at UVA. So, and don't feel like you need to do it all at one time either. So, that would be my advice.
That's great. I hope that gets people excited for the leap they're about to make.
Yeah.
We are here to engage with you all along that journey. Betty, that's all we have tonight.
Yeah.
I'll turn things back over to you.
Thank you. So I know there's still some attendees here. Feel free, use the Q&A feature again to drop your questions. Now is really your time for a personalized connection with Taylor and Ann here from Batten School. You'll also be able to access the recording again later. And while I have the mic, for anyone who might be watching the recording now, or even anyone who might be on the line now, can you share if there's anything different in terms of processes or how this getting into Batten impacts transfer students?
Thank you. Yes, that is, transfer students are incredible, and we are incredibly dedicated to making sure that they have a pathway into Batten. So it is not just a first year kind of glide path into the program. So yes, if you are a second year transfer, as in you've just completed your freshman year and are preparing to come aboard, you apply to our programs in the same way that the kind of internal UVA population does. So in the middle of this upcoming academic year, this winter, you'll be able to access our application. We have lots of resourcing around application. We can make lots of connections for you. You can have an ambassador look at your materials. You would apply during that window, and everyone would have a decision by the end of the spring semester so they can embark on their junior year or their third year in our major. If you're a third year transfer, you're in a little bit of a tighter timeline. You can still absolutely explore our minor program offerings. Come talk to us because we can steer you towards some coursework to knock out early prior to joining the minor, so that you can actually complete it. because you do apply in the same timeline this winter for formally beginning the program in the next academic year. And then we also have a graduate path. So it's a little tricky to knock out all of your undergraduate requirements as a transfer student and be in a position to fit in the graduate program. It's not unworkable though. So bottom line, come talk to us and we can talk about what options might be available for you. Thank you so much for nudging me on that one.
So thank you. Okay, so we don't see any questions coming in. We'll give it a couple minutes. Feel free. I promise Taylor and Ann don't bite, so. All right. How does the Batten community stay connected with alumni? Great question.
That is a great question. Taylor, you are an alumni. Would you care to talk about Batten Connect?
Yeah, so Batten Connect is a new website that was just recently launched by the career services team here at Batten. And what it does is it actually reaches out to us regularly, and I'm sure there's a more eloquent way to describe it, but the best way I can describe it is it's a Batten social media platform, kind of similar to Facebook, where you create a profile, and you can check in and see what all of your classmates are doing professionally, or alumni who are a part of a different cohort than you or a different program than you. So that's just one of the ways we've been able to, or I've been able to connect with other alumni and just learn from their experiences, see where other people have gone down their career paths after completing a program at Batten. So super, super great resource as far as connecting with alumni after graduation.
Yeah, as a younger school, we're kind of small but mighty. So our oldest graduates are gosh, I think probably about 15 years into their professional careers, but they
Mhm.
are incredibly engaged in the success of the students that are coming up after them. So super, super engaged from a recruitment perspective. They love to talk to prospective students about kind of where their path has taken them and how people might get there. They hold internships specifically dedicated for Batten students. They come back to grounds for coffee chats, for networking events. They're really eager to participate in kind of wayfinding and programming around how to reach your goals because we know, particularly right now, the public sector is a little bit shaky. It's very disrupted. It's a little bit destabilized. So they are really incredible resources to talk about navigating that level of disruption because this is not the first time, honestly, that federal policy changes and federal rules have really kind of shifted. So they have navigated some of that tumult. And so I hear from students who are just entering the workforce now how helpful they are from a broadening networks perspective, and thinking about exploring different career paths that they might not have originally thought they were eligible for or that were available to them. So super, super robust, engaged community that we keep really close ties to.
Right, so I don't see too many questions coming in. If you want to connect with Batten School directly, feel free to do so, or again, email our orientation office and we'll make sure to get you connected. And then just to add on to Anne's point here about the alumni relationships that we have at UVA, even if you don't end up in Batten or are looking for other types of alumni networks, there's a lot of opportunities. I'm sure when you get here, Taylor can fill you in on all of that, especially now that she's working for UVA too. But there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of connections and resources available to you as you continue to grow that from the start. So thank you all again for your attention, and thank you, Ann and Taylor, as well. We love when we can have a alum's perspective on their experience here at UVA. For everyone else, be sure if you need the recording again, that'll be on our Wednesday webinar page. If you missed our previous one or want to look at upcoming recordings there, you'll also find it on the same page. So thanks all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.